how big of a role does an athlete's social media pages play? Like, do you creep on the athlete?
Totally. Like,
Yeah?
this
Okay.
was such a good question because I have not, I stopped recruiting a player because of her Twitter. Because of content she was posting. And the thing I like about Twitter is you can see what they're liking.
True.
So, like, Instagram, you don't know what pictures or whatever they're going to like. But on Twitter, you can see the content people are liking.
Yeah.
So then it's like, that's like an integrity thing too, right? So, yeah, social media is important. Even with my current players, we have rules. You know, what I've talked to some players about who kind of had to learn slowly what's appropriate to post is like, would your parents want to see it?
Right.
Would coach want to see it? Would coach's boss want to see it?
Right.
If all those are yeses, post it.
Okay.
So really just like thinking before you post.
Clipping that part too. I'm gonna put that like right in the front of for this thing. Exactly. Nice little mic drop on that.
Next fall, I'm transitioning into a new role, which you probably would find interesting. I'm the coordinator of campus wellness.
Wow.
So I'll be doing some fitness classes, supervising students, doing things with employees. Yeah. So it's a new change. I'm excited for it.
It's crazy. And like, you know, one of the things that makes me like love having this show on is because you are, I want to call you and I want to like claim you for Brantford, but I know your roots are in Paris mainly.
Yeah, I mean North Park all the way. So
yeah, so you know you're a Brant County person, right?
Yep, Brant County. Yeah.
And like it's just I love that we're able to give people such as yourself like another outlet, another avenue to share your story. Like it's so cool that you know someone like you came from a small city such as the one that we all grew up in, or a small county that we all grew up in, and you're out here just climbing the ladder in a school like the way that you have been. It's insane. So I guess, you know, with that being said, with us starting the show now, for the people that don't know who Coach Holly Motheral is, can you give us a quick background info on who you are?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm currently the head women's volleyball coach at Messiah University. It was college. It's transitioning to university July 1. So maybe we'll get some more Canadians.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Before that, so I've been here 4 years.
Okay.
Before Messiah, I was head coach at Taylor University in Indiana. Before that, I was an assistant for a year at a school in North Carolina, and then I was a grad assistant getting my master's for 2 years in Ohio. I went to North Park. I played my super senior year. I played 5 sports, but my love growing up was basketball. And I had probably the best basketball coach in all of Canada.
Coach Gump.
Yeah, Gump was a huge influence, still is a role model for me.
She's very quiet about her accomplishments, and she's actually somebody that I wanted to start off with the show, but I think we're kind of saving her, and actually she wants to come on with Jackson, so we're going to have a little summer special with her when things are a little bit more organized on my end, and when I get more organized with them. But yeah, no, sorry to cut you off. But yeah,
no, like in college, I went to Houghton College in New York, and I was in a coaching class. I wrote a paper on Gump. Like,
wow.
I sent it to her too. I think I was like a freshman or sophomore. I was like, this is how you've impacted me, and it still carries through. Now that I'm 32 years old, but yeah, just great family. But yeah, so I just have always loved sports, always loved coaching. I think we met at North Park basketball camps way back when. So yeah, that's who I am. I've been blessed. The Lord's given me so many doors that have opened for coaching and just being influenced. I've traveled a lot with sports ministry, been to Uganda twice, Tenerife once. I've been to Israel and Palestine, and that's all with just using sport as a platform.
You know, going back to like you, like I just thought like the way that people admired you over here was just phenomenal, and it was something I actually was trying to like emulate as I was growing up through the basketball camps, both at North Park and elsewhere when I was coaching in other places. And I actually use you as a reference point too for quite a few people. But you know, if you don't hear it from a lot of people from here, whether they don't remember you or they're just not reminded of you as much, like know that when you were out here, like it made an impact on me and that was us in high school, like. And that stuck with me. And so I'm happy that we've been able to keep in touch more or less. I feel like we probably talked more in our, I guess, quote unquote, adulthood than
Yeah.
when we were teenagers. But
Yeah,
but yeah, so for those of you that are just tuning in, that don't know, Coach Holly here, she is from Paris, Ontario, born and raised.
Born and raised, Silver Street.
Born and raised, yep.
Paris,
And
Paris.
so yeah, we had some rivalries going on too because of our schools. So we have these like little these conversations all the time. But yeah, so we get a lot of local people tuning in, whether that's now or later on. So for those of you that don't know, this is Coach Holly. We're very lucky to have you on here, and I'm very happy to introduce you here to all of our young athletes and the young people that are tuning in now and later. All right, so thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being I guess a friend through the years too, and it's really cool seeing how much you've grown throughout your years with both Messiah and the school from before.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, JR. Like, I also respect you so much what you're doing, giving back to the community, especially even, probably starting out, you did a lot of just like volunteer, just like grow the game, and it's cool to see how you grinded it out, got a little business grant, and and just like flourished. So
I appreciate that. That. No, it's cool. It's always like, I feel like we're the type where you don't always have to be talking all the time. It's more of like, it's always nice to see those updates, and in the back of your head you're like, oh yeah, man, like good stuff. Right? Yeah. Congratulations to you, whether I say it or not. Like, I know, and I hope you know too, like anything like you post and anything that you share about your life there, like I'm so like just amazed by it all. And like I said earlier, like there's just not a lot of people that will go out of Brantford and sports wise especially and do what you have done, and I think it just deserves so much more recognition than you have gotten. But you also know how it is in Brantford too, right? And we'll also get into that conversation a little bit later. So now going into the questions here. So we grew up going through those NPC summer camps. They actually just got canceled recently, sadly. Yeah. But being camp counselors together and just being around that circle of local athletes, did you ever get more involved in our local youth, like the sports team here, before going off to America?
Yeah, I was pretty involved with Brant Youth Volleyball Club, like in the early stages.
Yeah.
So that was probably like the one organization I was like a part of throughout my high school years. Played 1 year CYO, my super senior year. Kelly Bates and like Claire MacArthur and all of them, they're like, you got to play. I already knew I was going to college for volleyball, but I was like, sure. And then throughout college, I'd come back on breaks and go to practices for Brant Youth Volleyball and I ran a couple clinics for them in the winter time. Recently, I haven't done a ton in Ontario. I mean, the past 2 years, I haven't been able to come home because of immigration stuff.
Yeah.
Now COVID. So I'd love to be able to come back and just run like a summer camp, stuff like that. So hopefully in the future, maybe we could partner up.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Wait, small city for both of us. We both know that exposure isn't the easiest thing to get playing out of here. What were some ways like you feel like you got more eyes on you? Like, did you get recruited? Was it based off of maybe like a tournament or two? Did coaches come see you? How did you get eyes on you?
Yeah, so I think for basketball, it was a little bit easier just because Gump was so connected. So I had probably just as many coaches talk to me for basketball as I did volleyball. Mm-hmm. But going to camps was huge for me. That's how I got recruited at Houghton, where I ended up going. I went to their summer camp when I was just approaching grade 12.
Okay.
And they got to see me there, and then they ended up coming to see me play actually at St. John's my senior year. So, and we swept them, of course. But
whatever.
I think camps were big for me, and then just I wish I knew what I knew now about the recruiting process. I would have done it completely differently.
Okay.
But camps, and then just connections that my coaches had.
Okay. So did it ever get exhausting for you? Like, did you ever feel like, man, I'm relying so heavily on my coaches to provide these looks and opportunities for me. Like, how am I not able to do more for me? Or how am I not getting these people coming out of their way to see me just based off of like my own merit? Why does it have to be like my coaches that are doing all this? Did that ever feel,
I don't ever remember feeling that way because I don't think I ever knew actually what recruiting process was.
Okay.
Especially for volleyball. Like, it just wasn't really a thing, especially in Brantford. Like,
oh yeah,
college coaches weren't coming around.
No.
So I don't think I ever felt exhausted. I actually felt maybe more pressure when coaches were there, just watching me play, because it was so abnormal.
Right.
So, and like in high school and even through college, like my identity was so in the wrong place of just like my performance.
Right.
And so it was just yeah, unhealthy. But I think I probably played more free, knowing like I had no pressure. There was no coach there.
Okay.
But I don't know if I ever felt exhausted, like, because it was just my sister wasn't like into sports as much as I was, so she didn't go through a recruiting process.
Okay.
So we just were very clueless.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, so like you mentioned, knowing what you do, you wish you knew what you do now.
Yeah.
Again, for those that don't know, you are also, or you were a recruiter, right? For
Still
Messiah?
am, correct. Yeah.
Still am.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So that's part of my main winter spring schedule is going to tournaments.
Okay. So, you know, with that information now, how would you, or what kind of advice would you give these young athletes that are from small cities, such as, you know, ours that we grew up in, that are struggling with the recruitment process?
Yeah, I think it's important. Like any relationship, it's two-way street. It's not like coaches are just going to come find you unless you're like a stud, right? So one, it's like getting access to video. I remember my college coach asked me for film and I was like, what? And I actually tried out for the Team Ontario and they gave us film from that tryout. And so I just sent that volleyball.
Yeah. Okay.
So I just sent that film, but I remember like I didn't record games in high school, and like that's something you provide your athletes with role. But so I would say definitely have your hands on film, and I like to watch full games. Like I don't like highlights as much because I don't get to see how did that girl react when she hit the ball in the net. How did that girl react when her coach called a timeout and pulled her aside? I like to see those things. So I'd say definitely have film. I'd say definitely make a list of schools you're interested in. I have a ton of girls that contact me. They're only interested in Messiah. And if I'm not recruiting your position, you're probably not going to have a spot on our team.
That's tough. Yeah.
So don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like kind of figure out different schools you like for the academics, for the like for everything, not just for the sport. And I'd also say attend camps. For me as a coach, one of my biggest recruiting tools is my camps and my clinics. Inviting my top prospects there. I get to evaluate them. I get to work with them. I don't get to do that on their visits. On their visits, it's more just face-to-face talking. I don't get to see them play. So camps are huge to get on coach's radar. So you do have to go out a little bit of just, you know, sending a coach a generic email. Make emails personal. Don't put the wrong name on the email. It's my biggest pet peeve when I get an email from a kid and it's like, "Dear Coach Trumbo." I'm like, that's our rival coach. I don't want to, I'm not
copy and paste.
Right. So make it personal. Make sure you're sending it to the right person. Those would be like general recruiting advice I would have. That's
amazing. I'm actually going to clip that. I'm probably going to start this whole, like the highlight video with that right there. That's so huge. That is so huge. Yeah. Man, that's great. So out of all the things that you talked about, you did mention academics. Now, for you as the recruiter, as the coach, how important is, you know, a player that you're seeking out? How important is the academic portion of that recruitment? When you ask them for their grades, like what is the biggest standout, or what is the biggest kind of turn off or downfall when it comes to the grades or like programs, for example?
Yeah, for me, I mean, being a D3 institution, our student athletes are only getting money for academics. My last school was NAI, so I had a budget for athletic scholarships, but currently I don't at the Division III level. The academics are huge because that's how you're going to afford to be able to come to my school.
Okay.
So for me, we look at SAT, ACT, GPA is huge for us. Those terms were foreign to me when I started college in the States. I didn't have to do any of those entering at Houghton because they had so many Canadian students. They were just so used to enrolling those kids.
Okay.
So for me, like SAT is huge and GPA because that puts you at a certain scholarship point at our school. No one's going to be able to come to our school without getting some sort of scholarship academically. Not only that, it shows me your work ethic, right? It shows me where your priorities are at. And academics are important on our team. Our school is very, it's rigorous. It's a tough academic school. So I want to make sure you're going to be successful in the classroom before you are on the court. So you got to show me that with your high school grades.
So now with that being said, with the grades and obviously you have to have talent and skill in your sport as well. Does it ever come down to like, oh, they're Canadian, the SATs don't matter as much? Like they don't do SATs, they don't prep for SATs. Like how do you go about that? Now, obviously with you too, being a Canadian yourself, knowing that process is totally new and different for a lot of Canadian recruits or people that aren't even are from outside of America. Have you kind of just been accustomed to now, like everybody shouldn't have the SATs in their head, or do you still have those across the board recruits for your squad where you have to remind them, like, make sure your SAT scores are good, make sure you're doing these practice SATs at home? How does that go for you?
Like for admission into our school, you have to take the SAT or an ACT. So you have to take one of those 2 standardized tests. So even if you were Canadian, you would still have to take one.
Okay.
There's some schools where you can work away with it. They'll kind of take your percentage. So say you were like average 88%, they could be able to convert that into a GPA. You might get around with it, but honestly, I don't recruit a ton of Canadians, just because of one, just like where our school, like Division III, a lot of Canadians get turned off by that because they know no athletic money.
Right.
And 2, I just haven't found the girl that maybe fits our culture the best.
Right.
From the Canadians I've talked to, but I would totally be open to it. But yeah, it's definitely a requirement from an admissions level to have an SAT, ACT score. So those are things I'm just checking in with my recruits. Like, are you going to retake it? You can retake your SAT. So if you didn't do great on it, you can retake it and they'll take your better score. So you can always improve upon it.
Now, is this across the board? Like every school, every university, college in the States, like from D1 all the way down to like NAIA, JUCO, all that? Like,
that's a good question. I'm not sure about JUCOs.
Okay.
I just know from my standpoint of my Division III and my NAI experience, it's been mandatory. Yeah.
Yeah, take it. Yeah. So for me, like with the University of the Philippines, like they have their own like entrance exam for it too, like kind of their version of an SAT type of thing. Every university has it over there. I would have been screwed. Like I still graduated second highest honors, but I would have been screwed if I had to take it because of the Filipino portion. Like I'm as Filipino as it looks, but like when it comes to speaking, reading, and writing, like there's no way. Like I would have just failed it off of that merit alone. So I was, like you said, with the averaging out the grades. I was lucky that my school did that, but you know, hearing someone like you, an actual recruit that's in the trenches with that stuff, like say that, I think it's really important for the athletes that are tuning in to really grasp that idea that like, you know, SAT prep should have started like yesterday ago type of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, people are starting that prep here like freshman year, end of freshman year, going into sophomore year. Like I said, at Houghton, they didn't make me take it. So again, maybe there's like some leniency at different schools based on accreditation and stuff. I've never worked in admission. Chad Muse might still be on. He worked in admissions. He knows all about it. But
was he there with you?
What's that?
Was he out there with you?
He currently is. He was a grad assistant for our baseball team. But he's worked in admissions at different schools.
So you guys are both from Brantford.
I know.
And did you bring him up there?
I had a connection. I was his connection. Yeah.
That's so sick. So being a coach and recruiter now, what are the top things you personally look for in potential athletes? Now you mentioned earlier the academics. Do they fit your school culture? Is there any other things you really look at when pursuing recruitment?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're at a small Christian school, so the faith piece is super important for me. They have to be open or interested in pursuing a relationship with Christ. So that's like our fit for our culture. On top of that, just like talking about pure, I'm going to a tournament. What am I looking for? Communication's huge for me. Like if you're not talking on the volleyball court in club or high school, you're not going to talk in college. And that's something I want.
Right.
We always start a practice with a drill where they're just mostly talking and doing basic skills because we got to get the vocals up.
Yeah.
Effort obviously is huge. One of our core values on our team is relentless effort. So we want it to be like, if you just broke up with your boyfriend, that doesn't mean you don't give effort at practice.
Yeah.
If you fail the test, that doesn't mean you don't give effort in your game. Even if you're a little under the weather and you decide you're still going to practice, then you have to bring the effort.
You got to do it. Yep.
Even when things are tedious, you don't like the drill, you're going to put the effort in. And then I think the last one would be like, are you teachable, coachable? How do you handle feedback? That's huge for me. I have to be able to give you something and you be able to improve upon it.
in our society, in our world today, like not everybody is willing and open about talking about their relationship with God and being God fearing and saying how much they value his presence in their game and in their lives. Can you tell me about, like, when did that start for you? Was that always, did you grow up with that, or was that something you picked up, or not picked up, but you followed his footsteps, like throughout your, like on your own accord?
Yeah, cool. Thanks for letting me share about this.
Of course.
So I grew up in a Christian home. Like, that was part of who we were as a family. For me, it was a lot of just going through the motions, like making sure I read my Bible, prayed at night, attended church.
Yeah.
As I grew older and went to a Christian college, I found out it's less about religion and routines, and it's more about a relationship with Jesus and knowing what he's done for me on the cross. Like, I'll never be able to repay that, but I have to receive that free gift, and I have to decide to live my life to glorify him. And that just takes off all this big weight of just like I said earlier, my identity was in my performance. So if I played well, I felt good. If I played bad, I felt terrible, and I would be angry and I'd be mad at myself. Well, like, slowly as I started developing my relationship with Christ, I realized my identity needs to be in him, and like, he's already won the victory for me. Like, I already have, like, as Christians view, like, eternal life. Like, I can live this world making mistakes and knowing he's like covered me. So it kind of changed my outlook on how I view performance, and that's something I want to provide a platform for my team to learn, how to put their identity in him and not what they do, but what he's already done for them. And part of our mission for Messiah Women's Volleyball, our mission statement is to use volleyball as a platform to share Christ's love with the world in need. So, this world right now is just, it's messy, and we want to talk about that mess. We want to talk about racism. We want to talk about social injustice. We want to talk about, how Christ stood for the oppressed, right? He stood up for the oppressed. He didn't just follow. He didn't pick a political party. He was like, I'm going to love everyone. And so I want to give my girls opportunity to find a way to live that out. And that's like our number one priority with our team. We want to use what we're given to show people Jesus. Secondly, I want to provide my team opportunities to grow holistically. So I want them to develop as a volleyball player. I want them to develop as a student. I want them to develop as a social being with their teammates, to having hard conversations, but growing in love. And then mental health is huge too. So I don't just want to be their volleyball coach. I want to be their mentor. I want to be their just like a guide for them. So sorry, that was a lot, but
no, I love it.
Yeah, passionate about the opportunity we have is so much bigger than just playing with a ball,
Of course. I think I think you hit it right on the head too, with you wanting to be there for them more than just a coach. And as I was getting older with the sport, I found that the relationship with your head coach, it sometimes gets like kind of trickled over to like the assistants. Like, you can't touch the head coach almost. Like, everything's just always passed over to the assistants, or sometimes the ball boys, or someone else is kind of, if you're going to make it a hierarchy, a little bit lower under that coaching chain or the administration chain. So the fact that you yourself, you're taking it upon yourself to be that mentor, to be that person for your athletes, I think that's huge. And I think it's something that I think you can probably like agree with me, like, that if you had that, you will never forget yourself, or you will never forget that coach that did that for you. So do you feel that way at all? Like, do you feel like you're almost too involved at times, or do you feel like you're in that same path where it's like, I'm not going to pry, like, I'm here if you need me type of thing?
I feel more that way. I think, again, looking in my faith, Jesus is an example of the perfect leader. If you look in the Gospels in the Bible, he lived with his 12 disciples.
Right.
Like, he didn't know where he was going to sleep at night. He's like, you guys are following me, we'll figure it out, but I'm going to be in the trenches with you.
Yeah.
And for me, if I'm up here and my team's down here, there's going to be some sort of disconnect. I got to be with them in the trenches. And there's some athletes that feel more comfortable sharing with me, and there's some that don't, and that's okay.
Yep.
Like you said, it's like, whatever you're willing to share, I'm here for you. but there's no pressure with that. I try not to like pry in their personal life unless I can tell, hey, you've been really quiet the past couple weeks.
Something's
like,
wrong. Yeah.
Do you mind sharing? If not, like, I've had experiences just setting up my players with a counselor, and we have a health center with trained professionals. And like, if you don't want to talk to me, that's totally fine. I get it. But like, let me at least set you up with someone who's neutral, doesn't know you as a student or an athlete. And that's been successful. So yeah, I don't think I'm too involved. I don't know if my players are on here. They could jump in and say, but yeah. And the stage of life I'm in too right now, like I'm single and I don't have any kids right now. So again, I feel like it's God just saying like, this is where I need you. And like, I need you to put everything into this.
I hear you.
And then maybe my season of life will change eventually.
Going back to the recruitment process, how different is it between Canada and America? Do you know more about American recruitment than Canadian, I would assume? Do you know any differences between the two?
I mean, just from like going through the recruiting process and being clueless in Canada. But I think from just being a college recruiter, like I feel like there's a lot more opportunities in the US to get recruited. Showcases, like volleyball players that I recruit have opportunities to go to like 6 showcases every spring. I don't ever remember that in Canada. Like maybe that's changed a little bit. I've only ever, as a head coach, been to 1 event in Canada recruiting. That was volleyball nationals. So one that's like my budget I can't afford to just fly to Canada every weekend. But
that'd be nice.
That'd be nice. But so I feel like there's a lot more opportunities here, and there's more schools, right?
Right.
Sports is a bigger thing in the US. Like I couldn't probably do what I'm doing in Canada. I don't know if I could or not, but that's always what I say. Yeah. And I think everything starts earlier here, which I don't know if I love. Like I love the fact that in my grade 13 year, I played 5 sports. Yeah. Like I loved that. Yeah. Here it's like when you're a senior, you're probably only playing the sport you're gonna play in college.
Anybody trying to be and play under Coach Holly here, you guys already know. Keep it clean. Keep it clean.
Keep it clean. Clean content. Hey, if you add a Bible verse in your caption, you're in.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But if I see a Bible verse in a bio, I'm like, they might be interested. I don't know.
Yeah. So now 11 question speed round. You have about 1 word to a sentence or 2 to answer these questions.
We call this hot seat, and I'm really bad at it.
It's nothing crazy.
Okay.
I don't think. All right. So 1, does homesickness often play a factor in athletes staying or leaving a program? No.
It's a struggle they have to get over, but they don't leave because of it.
Okay. Should an athlete that lacks recruitment message and email and reach out to as many coaches as they possibly should?
If they're interested in those schools, yes.
Okay. That's a good answer.
Don't just message a coach if you have no idea about the school.
What is the biggest turnoff when recruiting an athlete?
Ooh. Probably lack of communication.
Oh, cool.
So just like if I have to contact you, I get more than once, but like more than twice.
Yeah. I hear you. Okay. When you recruit an athlete, do you find that you are also recruiting their parents or their family?
Yes. But I focus more on the athlete. I've heard as coaches get older towards more parents' age, then they start talking more with parents.
Okay. Yeah.
But parents I want to be a resource for parents. So in the recruiting process. Now, once the girl's on my team.
Yeah,
nothing.
For sure. Okay. So when you recruit, what is your favorite moment as a player and as a coach? Do you have one that stands out?
Yeah. So as a coach, when I was at my last school, Taylor, we beat the 3rd ranked team in the nation.
Damn.
In a 5-setter. It was a thriller. We were in Florida. We were all sunburnt from the beach the day before, and we just came out, and they had this All-American who was like, she was probably like 6'4". Like she would just cram the ball. So we're like, get her out of the front row, score all her points. It was amazing. That was definitely a highlight of like as far as a win on the court as a coach. As a player, it's probably just those relationships I form with my teammates. Like my lifelong best friends for life, teammates. Even if I don't talk to them for 2 years, we're still like besties,
Yeah.
You probably have that too with your boys in the Philippines.
All right. So how satisfying, speaking of which, how satisfying was it to get that American citizenship?
Well, I have to wait 5 years before I can apply for citizenship. So just permanent resident right now.
Okay.
Literally the best feeling of my life.
I saw the videos and photos, and I low key teared up for you. It was just so amazing, and it was just like the reactions and so much genuine joy from those were your girls, right? Yeah.
They threw me a surprise green card party.
Crazy. Yeah.
And we marched through the gymnasium singing the national anthem, and they dressed me up as the Statue of Liberty. It was like, seriously, I'm so thankful, though, that happened in October, because right now, all immigration is, like, paused.
Right.
And so I don't even know, like, my status in the country if I didn't have the green card right now. So definitely something I'm super thankful for.
I'm so happy for you.
Thanks.
All right. So that being said, if you had to give up being Canadian to have that American process pushed through quicker instead of it, being 5 years, would you?
I could not give up my Canadian citizenship.
Okay. That's good to know.
I couldn't do it.
So
my American friends.
Yeah. I think a lot of them are tuned in for you too. Now, given COVID-19, when do you believe we'll all get sports again? If you already have sports, how is that looking? We kind of talked about that already. But when do you think the world will get their competitions back?
Wow. I'm hoping by September. I'm hoping we're kicking off middle of September, starting things back up.
We are in our finishing phases here.
All right.
Coach Holly Motheral, leave us some words of wisdom to end with. Do you have anything coming up that you want to share with the world? Anybody that might be from Brantford or Canada that's tuning in that wants to hopefully get recruited, whether that's through you or through just across the border. This is your kind of like last 30 seconds here to share your final words.
Yeah, I think something that Gump did with me was we did pros and cons list. I was between going to basketball at Laurier, playing with Christine McDonald, or playing volleyball at Houghton. And I felt like I needed to play basketball Gump was like my inspiration. I was like, basketball is my sport. But I felt led to Houghton. So we made a pros and cons list of things like I could not give up that were super important to me, and things that I could kind of give a little. And so that's how I chose Houghton. But I'd say don't change what you're chasing for no one. Make sure you have a pros and cons list, things you're willing to kind of negotiate, things you're not going to settle for.
Yeah, so thank you so much again for being on the show. Can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to be with us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was great.
Yeah, for sure. And it was like even just being able to talk to you, like I never really had like a full conversation.
Yeah, it's always just been messaging.